Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to Bob's Lunch Break. I am hanging out. I'm Bobtheorc. I'm going to go drink some tea and had a little snack. Then I've got a meeting a little bit later, so I can't be on too long. Sorry, there's no stream last night. I was feeling pretty rough, and so I just passed out after work. It happens. So today we are going to talk about Elon's salute. We're going to talk about the South African boogaloo that's probably going to happen. And then we're going to troll around on X, see if there's anything interesting going on. And then I'll get ready for my meeting. So we're going to try out this new format where, hey, look, there we are. So I'm off to the side now. And we've got, hopefully this window works out pretty well. Let's go find out. I found this funny video on X breaking down Elon's Nazi salute. So here we go.
Hey guys, Tesla Engineer here. I'm going to be breaking down this video from the inauguration. I'm not sure what the hubbub is all about. I'm a scientist, and what really matters here is the angle. Now, the danger zone here...
That's very important. There's a big difference between the different attack angle of your arm. And he'll break down the math.
Here is about 135 degrees. We can see that right here. Okay, now, in Euclidean terms, this is what we call the Nazi index, right? If you have an angle, any angle that goes beyond 135 degrees, then boom, you are a Nazi. But here, we have not reached...
And he's drawing that 135 degrees from all the historical images throughout, Germany in the 1930s and 40s. So, 135 degrees is a very well-established angle for the mustache party.
That index yet. We're not in that space yet. However, anything above 135 should be considered in support of the Third Reich. I'm talking about things like futons, reclining beach chairs, the time 250 on a clock. All of those are Nazi propaganda. Elon, however, does not reach that far. Now, not only that, but look at the inverted parabola of the mouth here, right? With someone with genocidal beliefs, we would expect at least 10 degrees of additional concavity in the frown. We don't have that. Instead, anybody who's studied 101 geometry knows this. Instead, we obviously have an upside down smile.
Yeah, so this is very important. When you look at all the psychos like screeching on the internet, they usually have a much angrier face. I can't even make a face that angry. So, this is very established science here. You got to follow the science.
Right? An upside down smile. So clearly, I don't really know what the hubbub is about. Also, this is just a one-off thing, as you can see from this video. God damn it. Hey guys, Tesla Engineer.
All right. So, and then of course the joke being at the end is that he waves high at the back and exceeds the 135 degrees. So, that's our warm-up for today. I saw this and I thought this was hilarious, so you had to see it too. Something a little more serious. There's been a lot of hubbub going on about the new law in South Africa where the government, they call it expropriation, where they're basically going to, work out in the mirror. If you're practicing just edging at 134 degrees, you're probably not doing it right. You're probably a bad person. So anyway, South Africa has been talking for a while about seizing the land from the white people down there. Nelson Mandela was great, but after he was no more, the government kind of went a little bit on the commie side, and they're looks like they're trying to pull a Rhodesia on these guys, and that's not going to end well. So according to the BBC, South African President Kriel, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, signed into law a bill allowing land seizures by the state without compensation. That's basically theft. A move that has put him at odds with some members of his government. So black people only own a small fraction of the farmland nationwide, and that's for more than 30 years, after the end of the racist apartheid system. And don't get me wrong. The pre-Nelson Mandela years. There was definitely some shenanigans going on. Yeah, that's right, Rod. They did. It looks like they followed through on it. And now, the ANC party hailed into law a significant milestone. Now, the ANC party are basically communists. That's It's one of the sad realities of it. A lot of times, stuff that looks like is making progress early on turns out to be just more bullshit commie shit, and that's probably what it's going to turn into. And the South African farmers have been kind of preparing for this for years. If you look at social media, but it doesn't really make a big, it doesn't really make the news because nobody really wants to talk about. Uh, do I need to deal with that? No, I can talk. I can deal with that a little bit later. It doesn't really make the mainstream news because it's kind of ugly, and Trump's not involved, and so there's no ratings to be had. So, but there is a prepper movement. My understanding is there's a prepper movement going on in South Africa, and there have been raids where hordes of government officials will come in. They'll have cell phone jammers, and they'll go and they'll just murder the shit out of these farmers. And that's it's why South Africa and many African nations are kind of backwater countries, because if you can't secure property rights for people, then nobody's going to want to invest. Now, is it a fair situation? I don't really care. That's not my business. I'm not South African, and that's a them problem. But what is probably going to happen is you're going to see a lot of these farmers arming up. They probably already have armed up. And when you had the massive riots last year, you saw a lot of people getting shot because, the white people make up only, 15%, 20% of South Africa, something like that. And, and are there legitimate claims to the land? I don't know. I'm not South African. I don't know. What's, what's that? Yeah, so, uh, now the I guess there was previously a law in 1975 which was placed the obligation on the state to pay owners it wanted the land from under principle of willing seller, willing buyer. Uh, the new law allows for expropriation, basically theft. I mean, it's a commie word for basically taking your shit without compensation, only in circumstances where it is just and equitable. Now, just and equitable is commie speak for I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to justify it with reasons. And, it's were things bad for the black people when the whites were in charge in South Africa? Probably. I wasn't alive then. I don't know. I know my parents were in South Africa. Dad was teaching at the University of Cape Town, and he did say that things were very, unbalanced at the time. Uh, but stuff like this never works well. It doesn't really matter who's taking stuff from whom. It doesn't matter if it's white people taking stuff from black people taking stuff from white people, green people taking stuff from yellow people. This never ends well. And the signing of the law comes after a 5-year consultative process where the findings of the presidential panel, I mean, they're just basically justifying taking the land that they want. And what usually happens in these commie land grabs is they take land from people who know how to farm and give it to people who don't, and then people starve. This is kind of what happened in Maoist China. This is what happened in, I believe it was Rhodesia. This happened in a lot of places. Whenever the commies take stuff, uh, it never works out. It never works out the way they think it will. Now, does that justify whatever bullshit was happening before that? No, probably not. Um, then the Freedom Front Plus, a party that defends the rights of the white minority, and is also in the GNU, vowed to challenge it in court. So, the big takeaway is there's probably going to be a fight. Uh, you can tell on social media that the whites are arming up. They view this as a genocide. There have been cases of entire families being murdered and wiped out, and you don't hear a lot about this. And and my understanding is that the black people who are working with the whites are getting wiped out. Also, yes, it happened in the USSR. Also, a lot of the Ukrainian conflict is stems from back when Stalin decided to do the commie thing and take all the Ukrainian land away from the farmers and genocide them, and and that caused the Ukrainians, some of them, to side with the other mustache man when he rolled through vowing to go and kill Russians, and this shit never ends well. So this is why it's always important to be self-reliant. Now, I will say this: the writing's been on the wall in South Africa for a very long time. Ever since there seems to have been some sort of reconciliation under Mandela, and then the commies kind of took over. And I guess Mandela was maybe a little bit of a commie, but he wasn't that bad. He was more just trying to set things right. But the writing's been on the wall for like 5 or 10 years at least, and many of the Boer farmers have made the choice that they're going to stand and fight, and they made this decision a long time ago. So that's always a tough issue. Do you piece out of your homeland and try and find somewhere else to go? Not a lot of people are willing to take the Boers because they're rather unpopular. They don't have a lot of places to go, and so you could see a massive civil war happen. And then which side's the U.S. going to support? Are we going to stay out of it? What side are the other African nations going to support? Um, it could get pretty messy. So anyway, that's something that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, and I'm sure that there are a lot better ways to have resolved the land imbalance issue. Um, and I'm not super familiar with South African history. My understanding is that I guess Dutch settlers settled in largely uninhabited areas, and then you had Zulus in the area, but not in the immediate spots where the Dutch settled. And then over time there were some clashes and whatnot. But I'm not really familiar with that history, and this is one of the aftermaths of colonialism and all that stuff. Um, and both sides claim legitimate rights to the land, and they're going to have to resolve it. But I think it's going to get resolved with violence because that's how most things tend to get resolved in the world, unfortunately. All right. So next thing on our list, I wanted to do a little gun safety lecture real quick about children and firearm safety, and this graphic here is really, I think, accurate. It's talking about how children and guns are simply a bad idea. Your average firearm is too unwieldy for a typical child to operate in a safe and effective manner, and I think that's true. Small children should not use heavy firearms because they won't be able to control it. And this goes on to say that children are much better suited to crew-served weapons. The semi-stationary characteristic of a mortar or heavy machine gun relies less on the child's physical strength and stamina, and it also builds teamwork. And this is exactly correct. I think that children should definitely be trained on crew-serviced weapons as well. And eventually you're going to have a lot of remote-operated devices where they can use like their little Xbox controller. The military uses the Xbox controller. My understanding is they use the Xbox controller for a lot of remote weapons, and so that's probably a lot more suited for small children. And then you can wait on handguns till later, because like I fired a 357 Magnum once, and it had some kick, and a 44 Magnum that had a lot of kick, nearly tore my arm off, and I'm a pretty strong guy, so definitely crew serve weapons and mortars. Also, the operation of mortars will teach them mathematics. They'll learn about the math behind parabolas, and that could be a very good learning experience. So, um, reminds me I've got to replace the retaining pin in my AR's trigger assembly. Yeah, you want to keep that stuff in top notch. I had a pin fall out of my AK once back before I lost it in a tragic boating accident, and I'd neglected it too much, and that was a bitch. I had to go find it. It was really annoying. So, yeah, always maintain your stuff. So let's see what else there is. I don't care about Elon. Let's see here. Matt Walsh. I don't care about Matt Walsh. I don't. Is there anything interesting here? Thomas Massey. Today I introduced H.R. 645, National Constitutional Carry Act. Yay, Thomas Massey. No one should have to beg the government to exercise a constitutionally protected right anywhere in the country. I fully agree. Shall not be infringed is pretty clear. And I'm going to take this time to shout out Four Boxes Diner. If you guys haven't seen Four Boxes Diner, there's some good stuff there. Um, Maybe he'll show up in my feed. Mark Smith knows what he's doing when it comes to the Second Amendment. But yeah, I think that a constitutional nationwide constitutional carry act would be great, and it'd stop the states from a lot of the bullshit, especially like California and New York. You would have a lot less crime if criminals were scared of people again. Um, Greenland. I'm not really ready to talk about Greenland. We'll leave that alone. Let's see what else. I don't really care about that. JFK will never quit DC. I used to drink tons of Diet Coke, but it's been a month since I had a drop. I don't know what Elon's saying there. Let's see if there's anything. Oh, William Shatner getting into trouble. But as you can tell, this does not exceed the 135 degrees, so William Shatner is in good shape. Lord Miles, I'm surprised he's still alive. From my conversations, I know the Taliban love Hitler. They talk about him being a warrior. Well, the Taliban don't like the Jews very much. Um, uh, so yeah, the Afghans talk about how Hitler soldiers walked from Berlin to Moscow using meth. Yeah, the German soldiers did a lot of meth. Yeah, you're correct, Rod. William Shatner's fingers were loose, and you have to have your fingers together. If they're loose, then that's waving high, and a lot of people miss that. Also, he's not frowning enough. You have to have a very angry expression on your face to properly embody the mustache party. Um, Early marriage, because then you can still hang out with your kids while you're young enough to enjoy their shit, probably is what he's talking about. Um, let's see if there's anything else. The TSA. If they were to abolish the TSA and go back to normal airport security, I don't think we'd notice much of a difference. I don't think the TSA has been very successful what they're trying to do. Let's see what else. There's nothing really stupid on here today. I don't. Argentina President Javier Milei to form an alliance with President Trump. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Hungary Prime Minister Viktor Orban and others. I mean, there does seem to be a lot of more based movement around people, a big populist movement nowadays. Um, yeah, you're right, Rod. Without the TSA, it would be a lot faster to get on the damn plane. I probably wouldn't be searched as often either. Um, what's this anime? It was the shit that we used to escape from crap like Disney, Marvel, and the entire Globo Homo. Oh, I haven't heard that before. Um, yeah, Matt Walsh attacking anime. Yeah, but nobody cares what Matt Walsh says. I mean, he likes to be edgy. Um, what's this? I guess they took away Fauci's Secret Service detail. Um, yeah, but the Occupy Democrats. That's all political, funded stuff. Oh, look, the FBI is marching again. So, yeah. So who here thinks that the Patriot Front look an awful lot like the FBI? Had a buddy of mine who works for the Department of Defense, and he was walking to work one day, and he saw some of these Patriot Front guys marching and protesting. He saw one of these like natural, one of these organic protests, and he recognized a bunch of his coworkers. I've got an interview somewhere. I don't know if it's on YouTube or if it's on my Rumble channel only, but yeah, he one of my DoD buddies recognized some of his coworkers pretending to be protesting. So I mean, this just looks so obviously fake in government. I mean, let's get real. Conservatives don't dress this nicely. I mean, you're lucky to get them to wear anything halfway decent at all. I mean, I live in Oklahoma. I'm surrounded by conservatives, and they do not dress well at all. Um, and you know, I haven't really seen a lot of conservatives wearing khakis. Nobody wears khakis. I don't even wear khakis anymore. So, although the cargo pockets, I will commend them on their choice of cargo pockets. Cargo pockets are very important. Um, Department of Government Efficiency might get rid of the U.S. penny. I mean, pennies are just used for sales tax at this point anyway because of inflation. Um, Robert E. Lee was a better person than Martin Luther King Jr. I'm not really sure about that. I haven't met either of them. I know that Robert E. Lee was opposed to slavery, but he had one of those like Victorian era convictions where he felt that he had to fight for his state. I think I'm just not going to touch that one. Planes don't have to land to drop them off. Ooh, harsh. Uh, Now, Mexico's going to eventually accept the deportation flights because they don't have a choice. Mexico's too dependent on American economics, so they're gonna have to accept the refugees. I mean, you're refugees. The returned people, however you want to call them. I'll get myself into trouble if I speak too much about that. But no, I think that the economics of the situation. Uh, Listen, I don't like the comparison because they were separate by a century of cultural change. That is correct. Yeah, there's a Martin Luther King and Robert E. Lee. You really can't judge people separated by that much history. Just like, it's not really fair to judge the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans by modern standards because it was a totally different world back then. I mean, back in the 19th century, they're still arguing whether or not everybody was a person or not. Whereas we'd kind of established that after the Civil War. The Civil War is a big turning point, and hell, in some parts of the world, if you listen to some what Maddie says, he says that some of the Aboriginals in Australia are officially designated as fauna rather than people. So, um, I think that a lot of the history of the United States was we had these big aspirations that all men were created equal, and then over time we expanded the definition of what was considered to be a person, and as people became more enlightened, or as they tried to get closer to realizing their goals. Wei Wu is hilarious. I won't read anything that she posts. I'm not even sure if that's a real person or not. Allegedly, Wei Wu is a Chinese individual who works in technology as an engineer somewhere in America and posts some crazy shit. I recommend everybody uh, have a thick skin when reading her posts. That was Bernie up to. That's what we mean when we talk about corporate greed. Starbucks gave its CEO 96 million for just 4 months of work. Yeah, but it's Starbucks. Who the fuck cares what happens in Starbucks? Call to activism. That's another Democrat uh, outlet. So, of course they're going to be opposed to whatever Trump says. Apparently, Trump has been saying that he's only going to send aid to California if they pass a voter ID law. And, I mean, I personally like the idea of voter ID. I have to show my ID to vote here in Oklahoma. If you're not showing ID, it's obvious that you're trying to cheat. So, and look, here's the thing. The bottom line is that Trump's a Republican and he's going to do Republican stuff. Biden was a Democrat and he did Democrat stuff. Biden shit all over North Carolina when they were having trouble. And Trump's going to shit all over California because that's just, we've reached an era of tribal politics. Let's see here. I need to probably fix the camera so when I look over at the screen over there what people are typing that it doesn't take me off camera. This is kind of my first experiment. By the way, how do you guys like this this layout? I tried to be a little more Timcast on this. You see some of these bloggers, they have the narrow camera that just shows their face, and then the big wall to show their screen. More Patreon front bullshit. So Kash Patel, I don't know a lot about Kash Patel. I've seen him on Timcast a couple times. He seemed okay. Apparently he's pissing off a lot of people in the government, which I think is hilarious. I can't wait. I'm glad you like the layout. Yeah, I kind of like it too. I'm going to try and work with this more. I can't wait to see his confirmation hearing. I think it'll be hilarious. What I really want to watch the RFK confirmation hearing. I mean, that could be some crazy shit. That's going to be the best TV ever. Have y'all heard about the RFK talking about the bear? I wonder if I can find that. Let me see if I can find the RFK bear story. Let's see if we can find. All right, here you go. This is some funny shit.
Now to more in the presidential race. A confession from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that he once left a dead bear cub in New York's Central Park. Our chief Washington correspondent John Carl is in Washington, D.C. with more. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Michael.
No, this is
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. In the videotaped confession,
okay, so
Kennedy recounts.
No, that's bullshit. Where's the actual video? Because this is funny as hell. Because the story is that RFK and some friends accidentally, they found a dead bear on the road, and they staged a thing in. Maybe I can find it on X. Let's. Let's see here. I don't want this for me. Let's see. RFK bear story. Let's see if we can find this, because this is. Here we go.
Okay, and up in Goshen, New York, up in the Hudson Valley, and I was supposed to meet them there at like maybe 8 or 9. I was driving up maybe really early, like 7, and that woman in a van in front of me hit a bear and killed it, a young bear. So I
look at the look on Roseanne's face.
And I picked up the bear and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear, and it was very good condition, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York City. You can get a bear tag for a roadkill bear.
New York's actually a pretty crazy place.
And so then we went hawking, and I had the bear in my car, and then
because of course the Kennedy would go hawking.
And we went late. We were catching a lot of game, and the people really loved it, so we stayed late. And instead of going back to my home in Westchester, I had to go right to the city because there was a dinner at Peter Luger's Steakhouse. And at the end of the dinner, it went late, and I realized I couldn't go home. I had to go to the airport, and the bear was in my car, and I didn't want to leave the bear in the car because that would have been bad.
Because that would have been bad.
So then I thought, at that time, this was a little bit.
I love the internet.
There'd been a series of bicycle accidents in New York. They had just put in the bike lanes, and a couple of people had gotten killed, and it was every day, and people had gotten badly injured. Every day it was in the press, and so I thought. I wasn't drinking, of course.
I wasn't drinking, of course.
With me who thought this was a good idea.
Because drunks always think it's a good idea.
I had an old bike in my car that somebody had asked me to get rid of it. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look
The
like
look on Rosie's face is glorious.
It's funny for people. So everybody thought that's a great idea. So
because of course drunk people think it's a great idea.
be amusing for whoever found it or something. The next day, it was like, it was on every television station.
I remember that too.
Every paper, and I turned on the TV, and there was like a mile of yellow tape, and there were 20 cop cars. There were helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And then there were some people on TV in Tyvek suits with gloves on lifting up the bike. They said they were going to take this up to Albany to get it fingerprinted.
Uh-oh.
And I was worried because my prints were all over that bike. Luckily, the story died down after a while, and it stayed dead for a decade. And the New Yorker somehow found out about it, and they're going to do a big article on me, and that's one of the articles. So they asked me, the fact checker said, you know, it's going to be a bad story. Right?
Of course it's going to be a bad story. Oh my God. Anyway, so that's the RFK story. And this is one of the funniest things I've seen on the internet. So you guys need to look it up. I don't know how I can beat that. I guess they're burning American flags and they're going to fight over it. Yeah, I mean, man, that's a big dude. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with that dude. That dude's pretty big. He's got to weigh at least 50 pounds more than the skinny guy. I don't... yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with a big dude like that. So anyway, I'm gonna probably trans stuff. I don't care about trans stuff. That's y'all's problem. And I don't Power Girl. Who the fuck is Power Girl? All right. So anyway, I don't know if I can do anything to top the RFK bear story. That's one of the best things on the internet. And there's a longer version of it where they're talking about it for like 15 minutes or so, but that's the highlight, and it's hilarious. Oh man. Anyway, so y'all have anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise, I need to start getting ready for a meeting. I've gotta try and be healthy today. Is a clone of Supergirl? Okay, whatever. More Catholic. I'm not Catholic, so I don't care what the Catholic Church does. Yeah, the Catholic Church is against Trump's immigration policies, but you know, who cares? That's their problem. Let's see here. I want more babies in the United States of America. You know what they do in a lot of Eastern European countries to have more babies is I think they do this in Poland and Hungary and maybe Russia. I'm not. I'd have to check on that. But if you have 3 or more kids and you're married, you get various state benefits. You don't have to pay taxes. You get subsidies, things like that. And they'll give you a bunch of government aid if you have 3 or more kids. Now, if you get divorced, then you lose the benefits, right? So you have to stay married because these are traditional Catholic and Orthodox societies. But yeah, there's a big movement, and there's been a big movement in Eastern Europe to try and have more kids because they're having a population decline for quite some time. And apparently they give all kinds of benefits if you're going to have 3 or more kids. Because 2 kids, you'll slowly lose population. Because I think replacement rate is 2.1 children, just because some people die before they give birth. And so if you want to grow your population, you really need 3 kids or more. Is there anything else going on in here? That's a lot of kids. I'm confident this will happen someday. Neuralink to cure paralysis. They might actually be able to do that, actually. Neuralink, while it's a scary technology, has a lot of potential. So, I don't know what that is. That's... I mean, I like a good 5 o'clock shadow, but that's... I don't know, that the glasses are too much. It doesn't work out. So anyway, I'm probably going to wrap it up because I've got to get ready for my meeting, and then I will be on later tonight, hopefully to go stream. I don't know what I'm going to stream yet, but I'll play something. Probably towards 6, 7 o'clock at night whenever I get done with the day. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I hope everybody had a good time. I'm glad you guys like the new format. I think it's kind of cool like this. And we will... I'll try and do this more often. So I will see everybody next time. Goodbye.